Hi, Rod.
Hello. I seem to
Rod,
have got that right
I've a Rod. I don't
successfully.
actually remember if you've met.
How's it, Rod?
We haven't
I
met yet.
have at your house when Rod was doing all your heavy lifting.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
How you
That's
doing,
bad.
Rod?
I'm well, thank you, sir.
Good, good, good. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this up on the screen. So as you ask your questions, I can just basically record some of the answers, but we are recording this session anyway. So thank you very much for doing this with Jackie. Look, the company itself, UPAT, has been going for about 40 years. Interestingly enough, it's just split up between the brothers. And we are working with the arm of the business, which Kerry Kuhlman has taken over completely, and that's UPAT. UPAT represents a number of brands, specifically Fisher, Milwaukee, and Stabila, but some others as well. And they operate somewhat in the retail industry. They operate in the industrial sector. They operate in the mining sector. And they are wanting to operate in the agro-processing sector as well, in other words, farming. The reason that we're here, that Kerry, besides being CEO, is also the sales director and doesn't want to let go of the sales director position within the organization, and was going to call the entire sales department plus the managers in and literally read them the Riot Act. Without too much research, too much insight, too much thinking. And the new COO, who has been with the company for about 20 years, that's Wayne Weber, wants to do things differently and obviously wants to do things from an informed basis, and importantly wants to reduce the wrecking ball nature of the CEO at this moment in time. So we have 30 reps across the country. We have roughly about 10 managers in different positions. We have 3 brand managers. So we have a brand manager for Fisher, for Stabilo, and for Milwaukee. The reality is that it was recommended to me by Jacqueline that what is missing here is the perspective of the reps and the sales managers themselves about the company, about the systems in the company, about the way things are managed, and about how they are managed as reps as well in terms of their sales activity. And so I managed to convince, on the basis of that input, I managed to convince the CEO and the COO, although the COO really welcomes the opportunity, that before the workshop, at which they were intending, or the CEO was intending to read the Riot Act to the sales team, we conduct this study and some other things which are being done. But we conduct this study to better inform any decision-making which takes place prior to the workshop and prior to possibly interfering with what may not be working perfectly, but is working in a way or not. The company does roughly about 190 million rand a year turnover, should be doing close to 400 million rand a year turnover. Its closest its competitor is Hilti, which does treble that. Hilti has a much bigger staff complement and a far more direct involvement of the European principles. But the reality is Fisher is a wider range of different products, different brands, or rather UPAT is a wider range of different brands and products. And Hilti has no fixings. They, except for their, when you put up pictures and things. So they don't play in the same spaces, but they are seen to be the big competitors. And there are other competitors in the marketplace.
Who are the other competitors? Do we have a competitor list?
There is one. I'll get you a competitor list. Okay, so what we are doing here is we are talking to 13 of the reps, supposed to be the reps here in Gauteng, but some of them, in fact, are in other provinces, which gives us a complicated challenge, but we'll talk about that a little later. But 13 of the reps, amongst whom there are the worst, those performing, and the best. So the worst, those performing, and the best amongst the 13. And then we're talking to all of the managers and the brand managers as well. In addition, I think I want to add to that, that possibly the two of you interview Kerry and interview Wayne independently, individually, to get their view. Kerry on what he wants from this whole exercise, and Wayne what he wants to try and prevent, but also accomplish from this whole exercise. I think that those are the missing interviews in this game. What I'm expecting at the end of it is a rough appraisal of each of these reps, a rough appraisal of each of the managers, and importantly, a neutral evaluation of where the company is going right with its sales strategy and where it's going wrong with its sales strategy. Are these reps just order takers? So, for example, there's one rep who is doing the largest amount of commission and is already being cut down by the CEO to the extent that she is a retail rep, but she's spending far too much time and earning far too much commission in the corporate, or rather in the industrial sphere. So something happened to cause that to happen once off, maybe twice off. And that is bouncing back at her instead of her being recognized for what she's doing. That the old powers in the business, specifically Kerry Kuhlman and his brother Richard Kuhlman to some extent, but Richard is more reasonable as an individual. But the older powers in the business have implemented a car tracking mechanism that Kerry is absolutely obsessed by, in terms of following these reps around and keeping tabs on where they are at all moments of the day. And then they have a IT platform that they're expected to participate in and feed back into, called Skynamo. I don't know if you know Skynamo at all, Rod?
It's where there are a number of them where you've got to, everywhere you go, you've got to sign in, you've got to say who you saw, you've got to put your action, you've got to put your, it's an admin nightmare, but yeah, I do.
And it's particularly, and what I would like is for you to hear that from the reps and how frustrated they are, so that we once and for all have it, neutrally determined that their MIS, their management information system, is a hindrance rather than necessarily a help. We are not an anal nation, and the little bit of inspection I've done on Skynamo has convinced me that it's developed by someone who is absolutely anally retarded, frankly. But nevertheless,
Anally retarded. What? Oh, what are they?
Retarded is the wrong word.
Move along. Okay.
Anally obsessed, absolutely anal, but retarded because of their obsession. But the point I'm trying to make is that it doesn't work for the majority of the reps or the managers. It's not helping them. In many respects, it's hindering them. It may be because they as a collective are resistant to change. There's virtually no training that goes on in the organization outside of product training. The majority of these reps have been stolen from elsewhere, including Hilti. And so in the process, they are reps considered to be seasoned and experienced enough not to need training, but as we know, that's never the case. Okay, so that's the lay of the land.
Okay, well, that explains one of the first questions I was asking Jackie is why did they want this? And obviously the 300 million down to the 190 million is why they want it. They're not getting sales.
Absolutely.
So that is the starting point from my point of view. And then the second question is what are they expecting to get out of the research? Do they want a look at their sales team, or do they want to look at their organization or their structure?
So I think that so that's a good question. So from the COO's perspective, they're looking at structure, and they're looking at maximizing HR assets, systems, and relationships. I don't know what the CEO wants to get out of it, except the CEO wants to get out of it justification for his structural changes that he wanted to implement immediately and was prevented from implementing immediately.
Has anyone asked Kerry what he's basing his changes on?
he's basing his changes on the reps not meeting targets, etc., etc. But it's a question.
Not what has driven him to that point. What's his logic behind what he's about to implement?
Well, you guys ask him.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it sounds very much like what I have experienced in the past. Is the head honcho decides that's going to be a good idea, and then he gets in a business consultant who decides one of these IT platforms is going to be the idea. And quite frankly, I asked Jackie, what is the age spread of your reps? Because the older school rep is inclined to get out there and run his section like a business and get on with it. Whereas the new school type reps want everything spoon-fed, handed to them on a plate and said, here's the name and number, you go there and you go and call on them.
So you'll find a fair smack of or smattering of both of those age brackets.
Right.
But really, I don't want to poison your perception of them or of the system or even of Kerry. What I would like to do in terms of process is define the process as such. Let me call it organizational interviews. And here I'm talking about you guys interviewing individually, Kerry, interviewing Wayne, maybe also Gina. Now, Gina is Kerry's daughter, but she's in charge of imports. And you would get a pretty fair view of where there are bottlenecks. So, for example, recently there was a bottleneck because an import went sour. And so the reps were compromised in terms of selling into the retail and into the industrial spaces because they didn't have stuff to sell. So Gina would be a good person to talk to in terms of imports and stock. Wayne is the Chief Operating Officer. And Kerry is the CEO, but more importantly than the CEO, Kerry is the Sales Director and doesn't want to relinquish that role. So structurally, that's where I think you would start from the organizational interviews. And then, so let me just do this.
Who's going to provide us with profiles on all these people?
Well, I think maybe that's the other person you should interview. The other person you should maybe interview is Jaco, who in fact is the national sales manager. So he would be able to provide you with those profiles on the people that you're talking to. Okay, and then from there we move into the reps, we move into the managers, and we move into the brand managers. So there are 3 brand managers, one for Fisher, one for Stabila. I always called it Stabilo, but it's Stabila. And then one for Milwaukee. Now, Milwaukee, for me, is the diamond in the rough in this entire brand mix. It's been completely undersold, misplaced. It should be, for example, a home brand or a premier brand in a place like Builders Warehouse. They've got the widest range of tools, the best guarantees, warranties, quality on those tools, and they haven't done a good job with that. But that's just my personal impression. It's for you guys to really determine. So there are basically then 4 sets of interviews that instead of the original, 2 interviews per person, single interviews, but 4 sets of different groups of people. And these are those. What Jackie has said, and I think it's a very good thing that you want to do, is you want to make sure everybody is on the same page, Rod. So my suggestion would be, I'm going to say a Zoom just because of proximity with people, but basically a Zoom with everyone who will be interviewed up front, but possibly after you've spoken to Wayne and to Kerry and the others, but a Zoom with everyone who will be interviewed, from the reps, from groups 2, 3, and 4. The objective is to make sure that everyone is on the same page, and then to proceed the way you need to proceed to do this job. The problem we've got is that this work has to be finished in time for the workshop, which is planned to take place on the 5th of October. If necessary, I'll get them to push it out, but that's the current date that's set, the 5th of October, basically a month from today. And just to be specific, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think that there are roughly 13 reps. I think there are roughly 10, there might be less, but 10 managers. And I think, well, I know there are 3 brand managers, or let's just call them brand owners. Okay.
No, that's fine. See, the majority of those would be an office type interview with the managers, Kerry, Wayne, etc.
Yes.
But I think the road interviews will take a little longer, possibly a day per rep, because that gets you in the environment and you're just wandering around with them with your eyes and ears open.
Yes.
And you've also got time when you're traveling with them to make conversation and get a feel for what they do. I've done it very successfully with other, not quite the scale, but the same principle with one of the resellers in Witbank area. And that's why I said to Jackie, maybe we need the first meeting and we can tell everybody, listen, this is happening. The company is looking at the structures to see where they fit in. Everybody's going to be going with. It's not a witch hunt. And the guy feels more comfortable just chatting to somebody when you're driving, and you can see how he operates with the buyers. You can see what he looks for when he gets there with the merchandising. It's a much easier way to pick all the information than to have somebody sitting across the desk.
This is such a rich exercise. This is such a rich exercise, which is so long overdue in the organization, Rod. To have someone with fresh eyes, with experienced and you know, I mean, someone over the age of 80 like yourself, to actually look at these people, appraise who they are, where they're coming from. It's such a rich exercise. And imagine this was your business and it hasn't been done before, how pissed off you would be.
No, you know, the thing is, I've seen family-owned businesses, and the family believe that what they're doing is right, but they forget that a lot of the new stuff that's come in just makes life more difficult. You know, just to give you an example, there's a mining sector.
Yes.
In good old days, you used to be able to just walk into the mine, to the head shaft, and sell your stuff direct to the end users. These days, if you can get through a gate, you're doing well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a heck of a difference in how you approach these markets. And you know, I know these little systems where they want call figures and so many calls a day and this and that. They just don't pan if you're dealing with somebody like the mines.
No.
We have an awful lot of time knocking on doors, banging on telephones, sending emails. It's pointless driving around the country because it's not going to achieve anything.
Absolutely.
So it's a different way of looking at things.
So I just to give you a better view, I've indicated here that, for example, Kerry is the major shareholder. Then Gina is his daughter. She's also a major shareholder. And the Fisher, the guy, and I'm just going to put his name in here for you, Robert, is also family and a shareholder. Robert is new. He's only been around for a month or so. But they're already packing on responsibility for the Fisher brand, which is their anchor brand, excuse the pun, which is quite weird. But nevertheless, we're not looking at family dynamics as much as we're looking at the reps, the quality of the reps and their relationship with their managers, and ultimately all of their relationship with the company in terms of faith in the company, faith in the systems in the company, and their perspective on what needs to change.
What is Yaku's surname?
I'll tell you now.
Janssen.
Yeah, I think so.
What did you call him? The national sales manager.
He's the national sales. Sorry?
He's listed as the retail sales manager.
Well, he's national retail sales manager, yeah. Sorry, did I not say that?
So is there a national industrial sales manager?
No, there isn't. There isn't, and there also isn't a national mining manager, and they're looking at the national industrial and national mining. At this moment in time, we're focusing here on the retail sector.
So these reps only work in the retail sector.
They sell in both spaces, industrial and retail.
And mining is not included as industrial.
Mining's not. No, they've got a specialized division for mining.
And
But
agriculture?
the agriculture, they haven't started yet. I'm introducing them to my very good friend, George Grobler, who I've told you about.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing George does know is the agriculture industry, even though he's I nearly said the word starting with a C, but I'm sorry. Okay, so that's the lay of the land. Certainly, Kerry will give you his perspective. Wayne will certainly give you where he wants to take the company. Gina will talk about stock and the restrictions in terms of imports for these reps. Jaco will give you a full perspective on who all the other managers are and who the reps are. And the fact that when Jaco joined, he inherited the strategic document, which was put together in 2016, wasn't implemented, and really hasn't been unpacked at all for any of the current sales force.
Does it have any validity?
Well, we have access to it.
I'm going to try and get it for you. Does it have any validity? I don't think it's a bad strategic document, but it just hasn't been implemented at all.
Well, I think that would possibly be useful once we'd finished this exercise, to see where what we find would fit into that strategy, whether it was worth implementing or not at that stage, if it hasn't been implemented at all.
I will get it for you in the interim.
I don't think we really need to concern ourselves with it, because we'll need the answers first to place them into any entity, rather than trying to fit in answers into a thingy. Let's get the answers and see if they fit.
But I'll still try to get it for you.
Mm. Yeah.
Good.
That'd be handy to have and see, because that's. But I think the Kerry and Wayne, as you say, that sounds like the good starting point, because it gives us a base from which to work off. You know, there's no point in charging off looking at stuff that they're not interested in. But I've got quite a good feeling what's happening here already. I can see it, and as you say, if the one rep has been knocked down and pushed aside and disregarded, that emotion carries quite through the other reps. And
what's their rep turnover like?
I can't tell you exactly, but what I can tell you is that it's a high turnover. And the reason I know that is I'm the one that normally has to do the inquiries to get rid of these people. And it's invariably not because they are bad at what they do, but they don't meet target. So the question is as well, you'd look in your report, you'd look at systems. I suppose you'd also look at target setting. And please, I'm not trying to muddy the water or trying to lead you.
It's in there already. I've already raised those points in the list of stuff I've made.
Okay.
And what is if there's no retention, and there are two things: either the job and no job satisfaction, or they're not making money. One or the other, and that's going to lead us down a path to what are we going to do about that.
So, Rod, to be blatant. I said to Jackie, this is hopefully the start of a long-term relationship that the two of you as a unit will have with UPAT, not only in diagnostics, but in interventions as well. Because I think the reality is that just by talking to these people, it'll be the first time they've ever really been spoken to properly. And I know Jackie, and she's told me so much about you that I think I know you, and you'll be talking to them earnestly, to the extent that they will feel they can tell you anything, but that they can trust in you. And I think that that's critically important moving forward, because whereas I think Kerry's view is he wants to get rid of half of these guys, the point is he hasn't looked at who he can turn around or properly deploy and where they should be deployed. And I'm not necessarily saying that's an object of this exercise, but it really, how we can maximize the use of current staff is a critical issue.
Yeah, I think I guesstimated one of those as well: job opportunities, promotions, etc. So yeah, it's all part of the same package, and if you're in a miserable sales team and the structures are carrying you down and you spend your life doing admin, you're not going to get the results you want, whether it doesn't matter how good the guys are. So yeah, it's something I've always done. I've actually always enjoyed doing, is going to see the end user, going with the customer's reps, just to see what happens out there. And it's always been valuable, whether from a company perspective or for the employee's perspective, because you can train the guy while you're on the job. You know, you can point out stuff while you're there.
Very much so. Or even in terms of how you would react, even in terms of how you would interact with the customers, you could quite easily role model it for those reps as you're doing it.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm happy with most of the stuff I scribbled in the notes, Jackie. We've got answers to, and our direction that I think I've looked at seems to be the right way so far.
Fantastic. Jax?
I just want profiles on the staff.
All right.
The one thing that you did say, they wanted a profile on each rep. I'm just a little concerned that we don't want it to turn into a witch hunt. Obviously, if a guy is absolutely useless, then one needs to sort of make some suggestions that possibly training or support or something. But I'm a little concerned about, you know, picking a guy to pieces, which may be used against him or may not. So
I suppose the only question to answer is what needs to be done to make them more productive or to keep them productive. So for example, what I'm seeing them doing with this woman I told you about, who's sort of 1 foot in retail, 1 foot in industrial, is they're tearing her down unnecessarily when in fact she is their highest flyer. And Kerry is looking to restrict her commission and therefore her activities unnecessarily. And it's that kind of insight that only you guys can give as outsiders that weighs heavily then on any decision they might make down the line.
It's something one sees. Somebody has decided you're earning too much, therefore we've got to restrict your earning.
That's precisely the language, right? That's the language. She's earning too much.
No, if she gets 5% commission, the company's making 95. If she makes 10 million, the company's making 95 million. I mean, it just doesn't gel.
100%. All right.
The old electrical industry used to do that. If you got your target, following month they'd push it up. So all the guys did, they were holding back oil, holding back sales.
Exactly.
So they didn't get the targets pushed up.
It's like Discovery. You meet the standard, they push it up the next week. You can never get that watch.
So no, it's illogical. It's absolutely illogical. The sliding scale on a commission is brilliant because you don't want to hide anything back. You push everything through, you earn a lot of money. Next month you might not make target, make none.
100%.
But while you can, you cook it. And so sadly, some of the mindset is you're earning more than the sales manager. Well, good luck. The sales manager just step down. Go rip.
I wanted to thank you for doing this. I know you've had a really, really shitty time the last couple of months. I really am sorry for your various losses. And thank you for being on board, and thank you for being such a great friend of Jackie's. We really need you in this project.
It's something I could enjoy doing, as I say. See how it goes, but it's something that suits my personality.
Fantastic.
I enjoy doing that sort of stuff because it is rewarding in itself, in that you can see results virtually straight away.
I know for a fact that if the system you and Jackie build together in doing this kind of work here is generic enough that we can resell this into so many companies as a useful set of consulting activities, particularly if and when there would be follow-up with other reps, but more importantly, in terms of changing systems, implementing systems, training activities, etc., etc. I just think it's got the legs for a decent kind of consulting business. And that's why I'm so excited about your collaboration.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. Thanks, Jack.
All right. I will liaise with Jackie then. We will start setting up the various meetings. We'll make sure there's an internal person. I think it's going to be Diane, Jax. I don't know if you met Diane when you were doing the disability stuff, but Diane is Kerry and Richard's PA. But I'll get hold of Diane and I'll get her to start.
Does she have a disability?
No,
Did she come to the workshop?
I don't think she came to the workshop, no.
Tall, skinny lady.
No. She's not skinny.
Okay.
She's buxom.
Buxom.
All right. But guys, thank you. And let's just keep working at this.
No, thank you for that.
I'll send this to you, Rod. I'll send this recording to you so at least you've got it for reference purposes, and I'll send you this as a spreadsheet, as a graphic.
Okay.
Rod, is there any information that you need that you didn't get? Other than what is coming?
It essentially gives us an organogram, what you've done there. The company may well have their own organogram.
Yes, they do. They definitely do. I'll get you something in a little while.
And you were talking
List of
profiles.
competitors for me, please.
Sales managers' job descriptions and salesmen's job descriptions. Is that the profiles you were asking for, Jack?
So I asked today for those various job descriptions, and the answer was that they don't have them. But I've suggested 3 to them. I'll send those to you as well, and I'm waiting for them.
Okay, no, if they don't have one now, then that explains a lot of stuff.
No, of course it does. Good.
Okay. That's lovely.
So, I mean, that's the point. Can you imagine?
Have you sent those job descriptions to UPAT already?
Yeah.
Okay, then maybe Rod should just have a look at it too.
So that's the point, though, Rod, in answer to you. Can you imagine? You've got these beautiful brands, Rolls-Royce brands. You're only doing 189 million Rand, but you're doing 189 million Rand. You know, 2 years ago, you had 15 million Rand profit. And the point and that's despite what they're doing, not because of what they're doing. Can you imagine what their profitability can be the other way around?
Are their margins reasonable that they've got margins to play with?
Yeah, they've got good
generally
margins.
on its high-end stuff, the margins are quite tight.
No, but they've got decent margins.
Well, that's fine, you know, because you find the other well, I'll find out anyway whether the reps have got any control over the selling prices, because you get the smart aleck rep, he'll sell millions at the lowest GP, and wonder why he doesn't get commission. But I'll find that out very quickly how it works.
Thanks so much. I'll send this to you guys.
Thanks, Ivor.
Nice meeting you, hey?
Thanks, Rod. Thanks, Ivor.
Hey, Rod.
Bye.